Now, apparently, the Migration Department and Interior Ministry, which signs off the department's decisions, have in the past contravened quite a few European directives and human rights directives, and they're all meant to protect people and families. Now, one particular contravention that has caused quite a lot of consternation and several reports to the Ombudsman's office is an assumption of marriage of convenience to people of mixed marriages. Well, to find out exactly what's going on and indeed what can be done about it, it's a very warm welcome indeed from the Ombudsman's office to Nasia Dyonisou. Nasia, thanks for joining me. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the invitation and your interest in this very, very important issue.
Well, it is very important, isn't it? Because I don't think anybody would deny that marriages of convenience are something that need to be sternly dealt with. But it's the way we deal with the possibility of this, particularly when it turns out not to be the case, that can cause a great deal of heartache, can't it?
Yes, you are completely right. And of course, every state has the right to check on several marriages to see if it's a genuine one or not. And definitely the state has this right. However, there are some, as you have already said, some human rights laws.
Well, there are recognised ways of going about it, aren't there?
Yes, there is. And it's not very new. I mean, it's since 1997 when the European Council adopted a resolution on this issue exactly. And some years ago, our legislation implemented this resolution. So we have this resolution written in our legislation, and we have to follow the procedure which is set down there. However, from our experience and for the lots of complaints we receive at the office, we see that unfortunately we don't follow the rules.
Now, one has to ask why not, because the people who are following up these rules are government departments, aren't they? And government departments surely know what the rules are. So where's the check, if you like, for how they do the job? It's a difficult job, nobody will deny that. Mm-hmm. Yes, but at the same time, it seems to be done elsewhere with much more sensitivity.
Yes, you're right. Okay, I cannot tell you why they don't do it. But let's start from the beginning and explain what do we mean when we say a marriage of convenience, because there is a strict definition about this. And the problem starts when we, as a Republic of Cyprus, consider the marriage of convenience to be something else from what it is defined to be. So when we say a marriage of convenience, is the marriage concluded with the sole aim of circumventing the rules of entry and residence of third country nationals and obtaining a residence permit. We don't say that a marriage is one of convenience simply because it brings an immigration advantage or any other advantage. It has to be concluded only for the sole purpose of taking a visa. So the problem in Cyprus is that, from our experience, what we understand is that the Migration Department, in many cases, when it sees that a third country national takes an advantage through a marriage, it starts seeing it as an indication of abuse, although it's not this way it goes.
I think the worrying thing that I've read about, do tell me I'm wrong, I hope you can, is that sometimes people who are just simply because their partner is not the same nationality as them, and it could be a Cypriot married to a foreigner. My husband's a Cypriot, you know. We live in a cosmopolitan age. A lot of different races fall in love with other races, don't they? But that doesn't mean that you would expect knocks on the door, and if I have read reports correctly, people actually checking through personal items and asking intimate questions about people's sex lives.
Yes. It's very crucial what you say. the guidelines we have from the European Union and the Supreme Court and the European Court of Human Rights is whether you check on these kind of marriages, on whatever issue. We speak about private life and family life. We speak about European citizens' rights to move and reside freely within the European Union. When you want to restrict these rights as a state, you have to be very, very careful, and you have to follow the principle of proportionality, and you have to respect personal life and private data.
And the right to privacy is enshrined, is it not, in European law?
We understand that there are many, many questions on this issue. We have received many complaints. We have submitted some reports on the issue. However, lately we decided that we have to examine it in a more systematic way. So the Ombudswoman, Mrs. Elisa Savidou, has invited the director of the Migration Department, Mrs. Shakali, to have a meeting and discuss this issue. And we are ready to pose many questions on the issue and come out with a new report in some general guidelines on how the Migration Department has to make this check.
Right, and what about the cases, I don't know how many there are, but there have been some, of mixed-race couples being asked to prove paternity, for example, via DNA tests, which, as far as I'm aware, they are expected to pay for as well?
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, we have submitted a report on it, and we did it with our new mandate as a national human rights institution. Our opinion is that the Migration Department has no legal base to demand this, to put this requirement down, and we believe that it is in violation of the right to private and family life.
Well, it certainly would seem to be. There must be many couples, even who are not mixed race, who might have a child that is not the offspring of the father. And it happens all over the world a lot of the time.
Yes, of course. I completely agree with you. And in our report, it was submitted 1 year ago. But unfortunately, the Migration Department has not changed its practice. We sent this report also to the Attorney General because we don't know how to treat it other ways. So we also called the Attorney General to take some measures, but unfortunately we still see this practice.
So what the bottom line here is, what can be done? You've sent in reports. The Ombudswoman's report has covered this not just in the last couple of years. I seem to recall mentions of these similar things going on way back. If the government of the day chooses to ignore it, can anything be done? Or is it very much a question of trying to, let's say, get public opinion to make them change their mind? It does seem to me strange that very basic human rights can be flouted in this way by agencies of a government, and there's no comeback.
I'm afraid that we may see decisions of the European Court of Human Rights against the Republic. Some months ago there was one, a very, very important one, and our state was now the state has to pay a lot of compensation, big amounts of compensation about violations of human rights by the Migration Department on a different object, but it doesn't matter. I mean, when things don't go right in our state, and if the governmental departments do not take into account the suggestions of the Ombudsman or other independent authorities, then unfortunately we will see decisions of international or European courts or authorities.
Which is not good for Cyprus at all, is it? We're a European state, and we really ought to start behaving like one. Well, it's interesting, fascinating talking to you, and I think you're going to be compiling a report on all of this, aren't you, Nasia?
Yes. I don't know if we'll be ready by the end of this year, but we will not be we're not far away from it. Yes.